Welcome to Astrology Throwdown tonight. Why Astrology Throwdown? Because we're celebrating the alignment between Mars and Neptune in Pisces. Pisces is spiritual, and astrology deals with energy, which is also ethereal. So we feel that's well under the domain of Neptune and Mars. That's the throwdown because we're involved in spiritual warfare where we look within, we try to find out everything we possibly can do. We look for that guidance. We want to know how we can become a huge part of the solution, how we can take our lives back, take our freedom back, take our, most importantly, our souls back. No one can buy our souls. We need them. We need them eternally. We have to keep our souls. Nothing is more important than our souls. And who's after our souls? My great enemy, who seems to be very involved with dark energy, and it seems like he's just been uh, doing everything possible to buy souls. And because he's finagled the world into kind of dependence, a financial dependence on his big Ponzi scheme, it's very hard to escape him right now. But we're going to look within and we're going to do everything we possibly can to call out his lies and to stand together and to defend each other and to love each other and to do everything we possibly can to transform how incredibly angry and frustrated and fed up we feel, and to turn that into something really creative and really productive that is going to show us how to finally seek justice and to see us move forward and make progress. Can you imagine what it would be like to not have my great enemy and his cult standing in the way of everything we want to do? What's he standing in the way of? Well, I'm being permanently quarantined as a perfectly healthy person. You can see I'm not contagious at all. See? Not at all. And yet my great enemy has come up with a story that cannot be proven in any way legally that I've seen. So it's a completely made up story by a person who has the money to tell any lie he wants. And because he's bought the media and he has all that money from that Ponzi scheme, he can do anything he wants. And then if people want to have jobs and live, they have to do whatever he wants and follow his insane psychopathic rules. And he can just make up anything he wants. So that is the hostage situation that the world is in. And I'm also a hostage because he has this story that healthy people are now the sick people. See, it's the opposite. The sick people and the criminals are free, and the healthy people who are helping and educating, they're the prisoners. Everything is opposite. So let's look within. Let's find out what we can do to make this a good world and not a sort of hell run by people that I guess want to be fallen angels. I don't know what their logic is and how it's okay for them to destroy everyone's life, but they must have some kind of logic, and it's whatever they're doing, it's made them incredibly wealthy, and they have everything, and they have perfected how to control and enslave the world, and they have done a fantastic job at that. But we need to do a fantastic job of getting these chains off of us, and that's going to require justice and law enforcement and dealing with criminals, because the innocent are now being treated as if they're the criminals. And that needs to change for sure. So please, everyone, let's get together and understand that the innocent people shouldn't be locked up. The guilty people should be locked up. See, that's why they have to lock us up, so we won't lock them up. That's what this is all about. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about constriction, restriction, walls, traps. Why am I doing that? Why is the whole world trapped right now in a sort of prison? They started in Belfast. They started in Rico Puppet Masters own personal fiefdom that he won with all those big lies that were told during World War II. They got him his own fiefdom. And in his fiefdom, they have been living in open air prisons. And they got started a long time ago. And now they've caught up with all of us. So now we're all in their open air prison that was funded by that Ponzi scheme. And that's because we're letting them control the financial system in the world. This one little cult that it lies constantly and commits crimes constantly. And I talk about them because I want everyone to know that when you do identify a Frankist, they're going to lie to you about every single thing. That's what they do. And how do I know that? Because many Frankists have come trying to become my new best friend or my new big sister or someone who they act like they're going to teach me something, or it's all because they're going to take control of my mind and then control my project. And the funny thing about that is it actually did happen. Someone did take control of my mind and take over my project. That's what's so wild. But I only would let that happen if I thought it was Napoleon. And I'm sure it is Napoleon. Napoleon is among us. And I couldn't have a weirder story. But my story's congruent, and none of their stories are. And their stories aren't even close to making sense. Anyone who still believes their stories is just under complete, total hypnosis. When's the last time they said anything that even made sense? But they own the media. They own the media. They are going to have no media left. What a day. What a beautiful day when even the hypnotized people won't believe it anymore. That'll be wonderful. Anyway, I wait for these things. What would it be like if Rico Puppet Master lost that media? Because the media is the most powerful thing that he has. And of course, banking is the most important thing that he has. And the other most important thing that he has is education. Okay? That's the problem. He is controlling people's minds, and he uses his control over people's minds to keep his power strong. He is completely ruthless. He is completely relentless. What am I doing again? I'm describing Saturn. He is a personification of Saturn because he enslaves us and he represses us, and he is a drag, and he frustrates us, and we can't move forward because of him, and he's standing in the way. My great enemy is Saturn himself. But you know who else is Saturn? Me. That's the crazy thing about all of this. I was telling you yesterday that in my 7th house, I have the sun. So my focus is on somebody else all the time. I don't even really like to talk about myself. This whole stream, I talk about myself a lot more than I enjoy doing. Because I really am focused on someone else, and it's just the way I am, I guess. And my son is in the 7th house, and it's a house of relationships. So I'm like that. And then I have Scorpio there, and I was trying to say that my other half spiritually is Napoleon, and Scorpio is actually a very spiritual, mysterious place, and even a little dangerous. So that's so Napoleon. Napoleon's ethereal and dangerous. He is dangerous. He's still very dangerous. He's still very much alive. Now he's really alive. I thought he was just alive spiritually, but apparently he's physically alive too. It's really a mystery because I do relate to Napoleon the spirit, and then Napoleon the spirit that's here. It's two different they're obviously related. I think the ghost that I talked to is his higher self, and he's my other half. So he's almost like my higher self in a way, like kind of my male half. And then there's Cohen, Elvis Costello, who I'm getting to know, and he is different than Napoleon because he's had such different experiences. I'm rambling really bad, but my point is that these are my partners. It's shocking, but my partners are these like over the top, huge personalities who are dark and mysterious and dangerous, which is Scorpio, and then my enemy is He's very concerned with power. He's very concerned with his keeping his secrets and hiding. All of these things are very Scorpio. So my enemy's very Scorpio. He's very Capricorn. He's very Saturn because Capricorn is banking, institutions, governments. Oh, well, my great enemy's fantastic at controlling those kind of things. So he's a very, like Pluto, Scorpio, Mars, Saturn kind of person. So I've got all of that energy in my house of partners. So you can see, and an enemy's like a partner. So yeah, I know, I can't believe this is my enemy. Well, this is my enemy. I knew my enemy would come running after me if I started telling the truth, because I know how these people work. They can't handle the truth. They can't handle the truth. Believe me, they can't handle it. So I knew if I started telling the truth that they would have to dig themselves up and show up. And they did. And I've been telling this story for years, but when finally they showed up and said, "Hi, we're here," oh boy, you guys took a long time. They really took a lot longer than I thought, but basically I was waiting for them to show up. I know they're organized crime, and I know that they're, super dangerous because they were always like, "You don't know who you're messing with." It's like, I know exactly who I'm messing with. I know exactly who I'm messing with. That's the whole point. I was trying to dig them up because I don't see any future here, and I didn't see any future here when I started this project in 2014 because I could very much see we were living under total fascism by 2014 and that they were about to start another one of their world wars. It just was so obvious to me that they were going to, you can just tell that they do those world wars on a certain schedule. I'm intuitive, so you can tell. You can tell. I live around rich people, so you can pick up on what they're up to. Boy, they sure did get rich since 9/11. Wow. They became a million times richer since 9/11. 9/11 was fantastic for rich people. I know that because I live in the Hamptons. So they their wealth is incredible compared to what it was before 9/11. And I was there watching them consolidate the media, get it all under one person's control. I saw it all happen in the 90s from a front row seat. That media is bought. It is bought by a criminal. That criminal needs to start being asked questions. Absolutely. This has gone way too far. Way too far. Now the healthy people are sick and everyone has to participate in science experiments like the ones they did in Auschwitz, and everyone has to violate the Nuremberg Code to keep their job. And then if Rico Puppet Master feels like killing them, like he did to Adolf Eichmann, because that was his little fiefdom that did that to Eichmann. Therefore, Eichmann followed their rules and then was executed for following their rules. That's incredible. Oh, but they can do anything they want because that's Rico Puppet Master's fiefdom. They don't have to follow any rules. See, Rico Puppet Master is completely free from all the rules, just like God, right? We're facilitating this delusion he's under that he can do whatever he wants because he's so special, because he knows how to trick us. He knows how to, through the financial system. They've been doing this for centuries. They know how to do it. They know how to enslave through banking. Wouldn't it be incredible? Just imagine how good it would feel to know that the dictator of the world, who's been doing all these things to us our entire lives. Can you imagine what that would feel like to see him in handcuffs? Oh my goodness, can you imagine? To see him, the dictator of the world, the person that's been killing all these people, destroying the lives of all these generations, murdering children, murdering Cambodians, all of this. The horrible things they've done in the Caribbean, it's endless. What they've done to South America, what they've done to Africa. I'm really going on and on and on. But I did live in Brazil, and I do see what they do to countries like Brazil. This is all on purpose. These countries are being destroyed on purpose. Brazil is such a wealthy country. They have enough for everybody. They could be just perfectly fine. It's like a lush country. but they're kept in poverty. Their drug dependencies fostered. Everything is done to keep Brazil miserable and to see what is done to them. And then I would, come back to the United States and think, oh, well, at least it's not as bad as Brazil. But that's being done on purpose. And now where I live, I've watched them make where I live kind of as bad as Brazil. And it's all being done on purpose. And I've had the horror of watching it being done as they do it, to see our nice communities being turned into war zones. This is being done on purpose, and I hate watching it happen. And I just really hope people are going to find that spark within themselves to take their own lives much more seriously. And I was talking about something in my astrological natal chart yesterday called a yod, and it's a marker of destiny. And I was trying to explain myself for the strange things that I do and how I'm kind of a troublemaker, but I kind of have to be because I have this chart that's creating so much tension. I'm trying to show my listener that I'm not trying to be uh, destructive and hurtful. I'm really not. I have all of these really difficult energies that demand action on my part. So I have this yod, which is expressing that I have a destiny that I must fulfill. And I was showing that Neptune and Jupiter are very uh, harmonious with each other, and they're having a showdown with a Saturn, a placement of Saturn in the third house, which is communication, thinking, and could be media, in Cancer, which is a place of the moon, history, emotions, past lives. I'm trying to show that my destiny is having a showdown with a sort of Saturn. And I was trying to show you that my great enemy is a slaver, and Saturn and slavery go together. The other thing I wanted to show you was that I have an other marker of a great mission and a destiny involving Saturn, just to show you how incredibly emphasized Saturn is in my chart. I'm always complaining that I'm under permanent quarantine. I'm being imprisoned. And that's not all there is in my chart of isolation. And so my chart is full of themes of slavery and imprisonment. And what am I supposed to do with that? It's obviously very frustrating to always have to be trapped. And what I'm trying to show is what I put up on my astrology report today on the blog. If you want to follow along with what I'm saying, not only do I have a yod that's having a showdown with Saturn, I have something called a bucket pattern. I know it's ridiculous, or a funnel. So please check that out on my blog if you want to follow along and look at what I'm talking about. Okay, so the point of this is, if you look at my chart, all the planets are on the top. Okay, and then there's one planet on the bottom, that is Saturn. And the idea is that the tension of all of those planets on the one side is really going to come through Saturn, and the holder of that chart, me, is going to become extremely Saturn to deal with the concentration of energies. All the planets are on one side, and the other side can only go through Saturn in my chart. So what does that mean? It means that I'm always having these themes of Saturn in my life, and all of my planets have a sort of overlay of Saturn on them, and my chart's hard to begin with. So everything's going through Saturn. Saturn is frustration and delays and pain and not getting what you need, scarcity, all kinds of just awful things are Saturn, mostly imprisonment, restriction, oppression. It can be structures, it can be institutions. But there is a good side to Saturn. So everything in my life is like always coming back to this Saturn in the third house in Cancer. Now, what do? I'm I am a constrained, restricted person, Saturn. I am a hard worker, Saturn, and I'm somebody who's relentless about my mission, and it involves communicating and teaching and thinking. It's in the third house, Saturn in the third house, and it's in Cancer. Cancer's past lives, history, your homeland. I'm a historian. So everything I'm doing as a historian. That's a historian in the good way. But in the bad way, I'm a historian who's persecuted. I'm a historian who's locked up. I'm a historian who can't ever move forward. I'm a historian who can't make progress. I'm a historian who's constantly frustrated. Try to show how the chart is my story. It's very interesting. That's what I'm trying to show you. Not only do I have a showdown with Saturn in my yod, which is the marker of my destiny, this is another chart information, which implies that I have a great mission, and it involves Saturn in the third house in Cancer. Well, Saturn in Cancer, Cancer is a place of water, of feeling. It's a very soft, pleasant, spiritual place. Saturn is unpleasant and uncomfortable. So I have this discomfort that keeps me working. I'm a workaholic, Saturn, you know. I'm so uncomfortable, I'm so constrained that it creates all of this energy. And that's where my work comes from, and my restlessness, that's Saturn. So I'm Saturn. I'm Saturn, my enemy Saturn. My enemy is associated with something called the Saturn death cult, which I think is the best thing to call them, the Saturn death cult, because Saturn, they're always enslaving us and trapping us and playing tricks on us and all that. And then they kill, they kill so much. So they're killers. And then my whole life is awash in themes of Saturn. So I'm fighting Saturn, and I'm relentlessly hardworking and persevering about my determination to see some results. And when I do see results, no matter how long it takes, I will never quit. I'm serious. If they kill me, I will haunt them. I'm so mad at them for what they've done to me and Cohen. I think they've been a lot worse to him. I think I've had it good next to him, and he's been this huge star. Everything's been fantastic for him. That's an illusion. That's not real. I've been trying to help people see that, but having listening to Cohen so much over the last few months, it's not anything you think it is at all. It's a complete illusion. Uh, the whole celebrity thing is a huge illusion, and they can't tell you. They can't tell you, we're lying to you about everything. They can't tell you that. It's all BS. It cannot tell you anything. So whatever is done to them, they have to. It's don't just know they can't tell you the truth, okay? They can't. They can't. Maybe when they start getting real, we'll listen, but they can't get real now. It would be nice if they started though. I would love it. Anyway, so I know everybody's doing their best, and I think Rico Puppet Master needs to be asked some questions. That's all I can think about. Anyway, so I went on and on and on about how 2 times my chart is saying that I have a mission, I have a destiny, and this mission that I have pertaining to Saturn in the third house in Cancer, which it's like the most important thing in my whole chart because the yod is pointing to it and the bucket formation is pointing to it. So my chart is like seeing your whole life is about this. It's about structures involving history. It's involved in communications. It's involving thinking. So I'm good at communications, but I am a laconic. I am laconic. I'm not the beautiful, florid poet that I wish I were. I admire that so much. But that's Saturn in the third house. I have a very blunt way of expressing myself. I'm trying to show you that this is real. I'm Saturn in the third house in Cancer. I'm very emotional. I'm always talking about the past. And I can't move forward. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. And it from what I read, and I do read all over to see what everybody's saying because I don't really trust anybody too much. But my Saturn that I'm telling you that is in a yacht and a bucket formation is opposite Venus. So that should give me another hint about this Saturn that I have. Well, everything I do involves Venus. I'm an artist, and my Venus is in Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, so it's a very restricted, hardworking Venus. So even the Venus is a Saturn Venus, plus it's a Saturn Venus because of this bucket formation. See, so I'm like the most Capricorn Venus you could ever have, probably. And then, as I said yesterday, that Saturn is it's so afflicted. It's square Pluto. I'm going to go into all this because it's really interesting. Saturn, my Saturn, that Saturn, because this does involve the Saturn that I am, that I have to deal with in this life to overcome my enslavement and my imprisonment. That's Saturn. And my Saturn is square Pluto. So it's extremely painful, very emotional, and it involves abuse and abuse of power. That's what that would be in astrology. And then Saturn, my Saturn, there is square the moon in Pisces in the 12th house. So it's so painful. I'm so sensitive, and it's hurting me so bad to be. I'm gonna cry anyway. So it's really afflicted. It's really, and you see how I am. I can't not cry. I'm so sad. Anyway, I'll stop talking about that. So let's talk about Napoleon. I can't even talk about it. Anyway. Okay, enough of that. When I cry, I change topics. Okay, so now we're back to Napoleon's letters to Josephine, and she won't come. He knows he's been deluding himself about her. I'm sure it's not the first time he's done this in his life, given the personalities that I'm showing that me and Cohen have. Because I'm sure I wasn't so sure before lately, but I mean, I prove things, but I still don't quite believe them. But I prove them. I keep proving them. I keep proving them. And I'm like, well, if I can keep proving them, they're probably true. And Cohen is like really validating that I'm Hortense and he's Napoleon. I kind of couldn't even believe it. How could I be Hortense? She was so how could I have been Hortense? She was such an incredible person. She was a great musician, and I'm so annoyed that I'm not a great musician. It bothers me, and I really feel like Saturn. See, there's Saturn again. There's something blocking it. I could be a great musician because I was a great musician. She was really good. So much has been done to denigrate her memory. She should have been known as a great composer. She's like almost as good as Mozart. It's absurd, and she didn't. Like it just came so easily to her. So anyway, I practice. I'll keep practicing. I'm gonna get better at music. I'm practicing as much as I can. So here is another. I haven't even read this letter, but it's gonna sound like a Cohen song. I think everybody should go and listen to the Napoleon Memoirs again, just to look for the Cohen songs. I should listen to them, ugh. Just to hear all the new songs that are That's it's interesting once you match it up. All right, so here's probably going to be another Cohen song, Napoleon Love Letter. Since the 18th, my dear Josephine, I expected you, and I thought you had arrived at Milan. Scarcely was the battle at Borghetto over when I ran to seek you there. I did not find you. Some days later, a letter informed me that you had not left, but no letters came from you. My soul was crushed with grief. I believed myself forsaken of all that interests me on earth. I never felt in a weak manner. Drowned in grief, I wrote perhaps a little too strongly. If my letters have given you pain, I shall be inconsolable for life. The Ticino having overflowed, I went to Tortona to wait for you. Each day I waited in vain. 4 hours ago, I was still there. A letter arrives which informs me simply that you are not coming. A moment later, and I would not attempt to describe my profound disquietude on learning that you are ill, that there are 3 physicians with you, that you are in danger, and so cannot write. Since then, I have been in a state quite indescribable. It needs to have my heart to love you as I love you. I did not believe it possible to suffer such miseries, torments so frightful. Thought that grief had bounds and limits, but this in my soul is boundless. A burning fever still courses through my veins and despairs in my heart. You are suffering, and I am far from you. Alas, perhaps you are no more. Life is indeed contemptible, but my somber reason compels the fear that I shall not find you again after death, and I cannot accustom myself to the idea of never seeing you again. The day I know that Josephine is no more, that day I shall have ceased to live. No duty, no pride of place will tie me any longer to the earth. Men are so despicable. You alone efface to my eyes the ignominy of human nature. All the passions torment me. Every kind of presentiment afflicts me. Nothing comes to rescue me from the serpents which rend my soul in the midst of my dolorous solitude. To begin with, I have need that you pardon me for the foolish, mad letters I've written you. If you are well, you will recognize that fiery love may have distracted me. I need to be thoroughly convinced that you are not in danger. My love, subordinate everything to your health. Sacrifice all else to your repose. You are delicate, weak, and sick. The weather is warm, the journey long. I pray you on my knees, do not endanger so dear a life. So short is life. 3 months will soon go by. 3 months still without seeing each other. I tremble, my love. I do not dare to raise my thought towards the future. Everything is horrible. The only hope which could surely calm me is lacking to me. I do not believe in the immortality of the soul. If you die, I shall die at once. And the death of despair, of annihilation. Murat would fain convince me that your illness is light, but you have not written. It is a month now, and I have had no letters from you. You are tender, feeling, you love me. You fight on the clutches of illness, and the doctors unable to take thought, far from him who could snatch you away from the malady and even out of the arms of death himself. If your illness continues, get me permission to go to see you, if only for an hour. In 5 days I would be in Paris, on the 12th back with my army. Without you, I cannot be of use here anymore. Love, glory, who will serve the fatherland? Who will? My soul is suffocating in this exile, and when my sweet love suffers, is ill, cannot truly calculate the chance of victory. I don't know what to say, what to do. Only I would like to go post to Paris. But honor, as you understand, holds me here in spite of my heart. For pity's sake, have someone write me, letting me know the nature of your illness is what is to fear. Our lot is indeed a terrible one. Scarcely married, scarcely united, and already separated. My tears drown your picture. It's the only thing that never leaves me. My brother does not write me. Without doubt, he fears to inform me of that which he knows would rend me irretrievably. Adieu, my love. How hard life is, and what horrible evils one must suffer. A million kisses for you. Believe that no love equals mine, which will last all my life. Think of me. Write to me twice a day. Rescue me quickly from the agony which consumes me. Come quickly, but be careful of your health. Okay, major Cohen marker here. Okay, sometimes Cohen can contradict himself. It does happen. And here we have Napoleon contradicting himself. Okay, I am trying to suggest that Napoleon is a twin flame. And because he's a twin flame, he's always a twin flame. And he's always looking for this other half. And it's a spiritual union that he seeks. And he's just tortured until he can get back together with her. And this pain drives him to do all of these things. Just like I've been talking about my chart, like I'm in so much pain, it drives me to do things. That's the same with Napoleon. He's in so much pain about this twin flame thing that it makes him do things. And it actually creates a lot of power. And that's what they say in astrology, how a painful aspect can create power because you're in pain, so you have to do things to relieve it. If you weren't in so much pain, you could just enjoy yourself. But if you're miserable, you can't just enjoy yourself. You have to do something, and it actually creates a lot of power because if you are in so much pain, you can do great superhuman things because that pain makes you so uncomfortable. So Napoleon he wants his twin flame so bad. He so wants Josephine to be his twin flame. The crazy part here is Josephine is his twin flame's mother. So he's really almost married to his twin flame. It's horrible. It's a horrible situation. But he's so in love with her. It's his twin flame's mother. Then when his twin flame grows up a little bit, he's like, oh no, it's her. She's the one that I love. That's the tragedy of Napoleon's life. It's really sad. So he says, I'm scared I won't be able to meet you after death. It's in the letter I just read. And then he says, I believe I'm going to be annihilated after death. He's just going to become a piece of dust, like I was saying the other day. Cohen's always saying we just become a piece of dust. There it is, annihilation. But we kind of know he doesn't really feel that way. It's perfect match. I thought that was a good one. So once again, proven. And I didn't even know any of that was going to be in there. So that's cool. You cannot deny that. What can you do? All right, so now we're going to go to Cohen's memoirs. We're going to find out Betsy's crazy rock and roll life she's led. Okay, and it starts with lying in the confessional, picking a beetle to be his confirmation name. So cheeky, the cheeky, down low Beatles community. That's funny. Anyway, so now we're at the point where little Cohen, little Declan, tells his father, his kind of sort of Irish father. I hope I'm saying that right. But they're in Liverpool, but they're not super happy about England either. His father's kind of sort of Irish. His grandfather's Irish, if I'm getting this right. So they're like the English, but they're not like English. They're more Irish a little bit. So that I think you need to know that because he picked the name George, and that's a very English name. So here it goes. George, my father said, you chose George, the patron saint of England? He rang for the sisters. He rang for the priest. But there was nothing that could be done. The list had already been dispatched to the diocese, presumably written in indelible ink or the blood of martyrs. I suppose it could have been worse. I might have been a fan of Hermits. Now, Steve Naive was at the piano, going through the ambitious string chart that he had written for my song, and in every home, when St. Ringo walked in. George Martin looked up and said, "Hello, Ringo," as if this were entirely an everyday occurrence, which I suppose at one time it had been for him, and went back to the music at the piano. Jeff Emmerich had asked George Martin if he would look over Steve's orchestral score for any technical challenges, as Steve was intending to conduct the orchestra himself. George was generous with his time and advice, amused by the allusions to his Beatles orchestrations that Steve had written into his score. I invited Ringo and his wife Barbara into the control room, where he asked me if I would produce a few tracks for what became his Stop and Smell the Roses album. It was flattering to be asked, but I had a hard time imagining that I was the right man for the job, as I was still uneasy around musicians outside my own circle. So the plan to produce Ringo didn't go any further than one conversation. Eventually, the day arrived to record Steve Naive's Baroque chart for "And in Every Home." Steve summoned up all of his Royal College of Music training, overcame his natural shyness, and commanded the conductor's podium admirably. It was as if we were hearing him speak for the first time. The other three of us applauded from behind the studio glass as Naive provided some elaborately embroidered clothes for my shabby tail. Not long before I was born, my parents lived in a modest flat in Leeds, while my dad was playing in the trumpet section and singing the occasional song with Bob Miller and his Millermen at the Mecca Locarno Ballroom. By the time I pitched up there in the early 80s at an all-night cafe in the company of a couple of local girls, their old neighborhood seemed to have developed a more desolate and sinister atmosphere. I wrote, "And in Every Home," after that bleak early morning visit, but there were so many details that I left out of those verses. They can be found in this short story. Thank you so much for listening tonight. I really appreciate it. Have a good evening.